Now concerning the things whereof ye wrote unto me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman. Nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife. Let every woman have her own husband. Let the husband render unto the wife due benevolence, and likewise also the wife unto the husband. We all have our needs. The wife hath not power of her own body, but the husband, and likewise also the husband hath not power of his own body, but the wife. Defraud ye not one another, except that it be with consent for a time. In other words, if you guys need to, that's called separation instead of divorce, when you guys are fighting too much or whatever. That ye may give yourselves unto fasting and prayer, and come together again, that Satan tempt you not for your incontinency. Don't commit adultery and stuff like that. But I speak this by permission, and not of commandment. For I would that all men were even as myself, but every man hath his proper gift, one after another, one after this manner, and another after that. I say therefore that the unmarried and widows, it is good for them if they abide, even as I. The Catholics use this to justify why they force their priests not to marry. But if they cannot contain, let them marry, for it is better to marry than to burn. And unto the married I command, yet not I, but the Lord, let not the wife depart from her husband. And if she depart, let her remain unmarried, or be reconciled to her husband. That, those people that are who claim to be Christians, and they're remarried 8 times or whatever. Yeah, that's adultery in the Lord's eyes. Now, if you did this and you hadn't come to Christ, and then you do come to Christ, God will forgive you for your ignorance. God will forgive your past, absolutely. And let not the husband put away his wife. But to the rest I speak, but to the rest speak I, not the Lord. In other words, it says, if a brother have a wife that believe not, and she be pleased to dwell with him, let him not put her away. In other words, if your wife doesn't believe, but she decides to accept his change, but she decides to accept the fact she's a Christian, and she's not threatening to leave him, she's not trying to interrupt her prayer, she's respecting the fact that he's a Christian. And the woman which hath her husband that believe not, if he be pleased to dwell with her, let her not leave him. For the unbelieving husband is sanctified by the wife, and the unbelieving wife is sanctified by the husband. Else were your children unclean, but now are holy. This can be misinterpreted into they're saved automatically because you are. That is not what this is saying. But if the unbelieving depart, let him depart. A brother or sister is not under bondage in such cases, but God hath called us to peace. In other words, if your husband is abusive to you, he doesn't let you pray, he actually gets abusive, he is verbally abusive, he gets you to the point where you can't function, and you feel trapped, and you feel threatened, and you feel neglected or whatever, let him leave. Give him that option. If your husband or your wife forces you to make an ultimatum, either her or him or Jesus, always choose Jesus. Let him leave. But God has called us to peace. For what knowest thou, O wife, whether thou shalt be saved by the husband, or how knowest thou, O man, whether thou shalt save thy wife? But God hath distributed to every man as the Lord hath called every one, so let him walk. And so I ordain in all churches. So this, and if the woman which and if the unbelieving depart, let him depart. No, wait, sorry. The unbelieving husband is sanctified by the wife, and the unbelieving wife is sanctified by the husband. Jump down to, for what knowest thou, wife, whether thou shalt save thy husband? In other words, if you jump to 1 Peter 3, this explains why what I said before about verse 14, why that doesn't mean that they're automatically saved. It's more detailed in 1 Peter 3. It's not automatic like some people believe. Focus, camera. Focus, you can do it. Likewise, 1 Peter 3, likewise, ye wives, in subjugation to your own husband, that if any obey not the word, they also may without the word be won by the conversation of the wives, while they behold your chaste conversion coupled with fear. They understand that you're a different person, that what you're doing, that's legit. And they can't, at the very least, they can't deny you've changed. Who is adorning, let it not be outward adoring of plaiting a hair, or wearing gold, or of putting on of apparel, but let it be the hidden man of the heart, in that which is not corruptible, even the ornament of a meek and quiet spirit. You're not arguing with your man all the time. You're not constantly nagging and haranguing him. You're trusting him. You respect him. You have faith in your husband. So, which is in the sight of God of great price. In other words, God loves it when you're that way towards your man. For after this manner, in the old time, and the holy women also, who trusted God, adorned themselves, being subjugation to their husbands. Even as Sarah obeyed Abraham, I keep calling him Abram because he used to be called that, calling him Lord, whose daughters ye are, as long as ye do well, and are not afraid with any amazement. Likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge, giving honor unto the wife. Give her honor, as unto the weaker vessel, being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered. That doesn't mean you're better than your wife. That just means that's the order of things. That doesn't mean that one person is better than the other.